Good morning, students. I am Dr. Pradeep Sharma. I am working as a professor in Department of Environmental Science of Graphicara deemed to be university, and I will be teaching you environmental science in this semester. First of all, on behalf of Graphicara Education Society, I welcome you all to our university. And because we are interacting for the first time, so I would like to start with a very brief introduction of mine. My name is Dr. Pradeep Sharma, and I hold a doctorate degree in environmental science. I did my bachelor's from Kumayu University, and afterwards I did my master's in environmental science from GB Pant University of Agriculture and Technology. After completing my master's, I did work in some private organizations as environmental expert for approximately more than 7 years. Later, I got a fellowship for pursuing my PhD from Hokkaido University of Japan, and I moved to Japan in year 2007 for carrying out my doctorate research. I completed my PhD in environmental science from this University of Japan and returned back to India in 2011. I joined Graphicara deemed to be university as an assistant professor in 2012, and I was promoted to associate professor in 2015 and further to professor in 2019. My area of research includes wastewater purification, bioremediation, and phytoremediation. I am also interested to work on management of solid waste, which is one of the biggest problems of our society. So that was a brief introduction of mine, and now I would like to give a brief introduction of this subject first. As you know, the name of the subject is environmental science, and the code of the subject is TEV 101. The total credits for this course are 3 credits. This means that you will have 3 lectures in a week for this subject. All of you will be evaluated through your performance in midterm and end term examinations, assignments, classroom quizzes, and sessional marks. Coming to the syllabus of the subject, the entire syllabus of the subject has been divided into 4 units. The unit 1 is related to environmental science and ecosystem. Under this unit, we will discuss about the general definition of environmental science, its multidisciplinary nature. Then finally, we will also talk about the objectives, scopes, and importance of environmental science in our life. To continue further, we will talk about the concept of an ecosystem. We will study the various kinds of ecosystems through its structure and function. We will also see how energy flows in any particular ecosystem. Then we will also talk about the concept of ecological succession, and we will also discuss about the food chains, food webs which operates in any particular ecosystem. We will also talk about ecological pyramids, which is a method of analyzing the data that we gather during the study of any ecosystem. Further, we will discuss in detail about characteristic features, structure and function of some of the ecosystems such as forest ecosystem, grassland ecosystem, desert ecosystem, and aquatic ecosystems. Under aquatic ecosystems, we will discuss about ponds, streams, lakes, rivers, oceans, and estuaries. So that was all about unit 1. Coming to unit 2, which is all about natural resources and biodiversity. We will discuss about the classification of natural resources as renewable and non-renewable resources. We will talk about the various natural resources such as forest resources, water, mineral, food resources, energy resources and land resources. And under each resource we will discuss about the importance of that particular resource, its values, major threats on that particular resource, and the possible solutions for protection of these natural resources. Then we'll talk about role of an individual in conservation of natural resource. We will discuss in detail that how as an individual you can contribute to the protection of environment, to the conservation of natural resource in and around your society. We will also talk about the biodiversity, in which we will discuss about the definition of biodiversity, the various levels of biodiversity, values of biodiversity. We will see that what are the major threats on our biodiversity. Then we will talk about biodiversity at global, national and local levels. We will also discuss about biogeographical classification of biodiversity of India. Then we will talk about the hot spots of biodiversity of India as well as entire world. We will have a long discussion on endangered and endemic species of India. Then finally we will talk about the conservation of biodiversity through in situ and ex situ methods. So that was all about unit 2, which was purely related to natural resource and biodiversity. Then we have unit 3, which is related to environmental pollution. In this unit we will discuss in detail about causes, effects and control measures of air pollution, water pollution, soil pollution, marine pollution, noise pollution, thermal pollution and nuclear hazards. Then in continuation to these we will talk about solid waste management. We will see that what are the various causes, effects and control measures of urban and industrial solid waste. Then finally we will talk about the role of an individual in prevention of pollution. We will also talk about pollution case studies in this unit. Then we have unit 4, that is related to important environmental and social issues such as climate change, global warming, acid rain, ozone layer depletion, nuclear accidents and Holocaust. We will try to know more about all these issues with the help of case studies also. Then we will talk about the sustainable development, when this concept was originated, how the policies of sustainable development was framed out, what has been done so far for establishing the sustainable development in entire globe. We will talk about the problems and concerns related to the resettlement and rehabilitation of the people. Then we will talk about environmental ethics, consumerism and waste products. Then we will talk about environmental management, and under this head we will talk about disaster management. We will discuss about some commonly occurring disasters such as floods, earthquakes, cyclone and landslides. We will see that what are the reasons of all these disasters and how the disaster can be managed using a pre-planned action. Then we will talk about environmental legislation in this unit. We will talk about Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act. We will also discuss about Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act. Then we will see the characteristic features of Wildlife Protection Act, Forest Conservation Act, etc. Then students, we will discuss about issues which are involved in enforcement of environmental legislation in India. We will also see that what is the role of public awareness in enforcement of these environmental laws. After this we will talk about population growth. We will discuss about population explosion, environmental and human health. We will talk about human rights, then value education such as HIV and AIDS education. We will talk about women and child welfare, and finally we will discuss about the role of information technology in environment and human health. We will try to study all these topics with the help of some case studies. We have one more unit, that is unit 5, which is related to field work, and it comprises of visit to a local area to document environmental assets such as rivers, forests, grasslands, hill, mountain, etc. Another task is to visit a local polluted site. It could be urban, rural or industrial site or even agricultural site. Another task is to study the common plants, insects and birds. And one more task in this unit is to study the simple ecosystems such as pond, river, hill slopes, which are located in our surrounding. So this unit is entirely related to the field work. We will be able to carry out this field work only once the regular classes are resumed. So that was all about the syllabus of environmental science. So now I would like to start the topics of unit 1, that is environmental science and ecosystem. Environmental science can be defined as an interdisciplinary academic field that integrates physical, biological, chemical and information sciences. And this science can be used for studying the environment and getting the solutions of environmental problems. Environmental science is not a pure subject. It is considered as a multidisciplinary subject, and that denotes the multidisciplinary nature of environmental science. Multidisciplinary nature means this subject is composed of various domains or the areas or the subjects. It is an amalgam of many subjects altogether. So it reflects its multidisciplinary nature. Let's take some example. Suppose I am an environmental expert and I want to construct a treatment plant for purification of wastewater. So I can do this only if I have good knowledge of designing that particular treatment plant. If I have good knowledge of all the civil works that will be required in the construction of that treatment plant. This means that I should have good command over design. I should have good command over civil engineering. This means that this subject is also related to engineering. Now, if I want to treat any wastewater, I must have very good knowledge of all the chemical reactions that I will carry out by adding some chemicals for purification of that particular wastewater. So for that I should have very good knowledge of chemistry, then only I can choose what is an appropriate chemical which should be used for purification of that wastewater. This means the person who is expert in environment should have good knowledge of chemistry also. If I am taking use of some specific plants which can absorb pollutants from the wastewater, then I should have good knowledge of botany subject also. Then only I can choose specific plants which can be used as pollution absorbers. Likewise, what kind of machinery will be used in that particular plant, it would be possible only if I have good knowledge of electrical engineering or say mechanical engineering. This means that this subject has a multidisciplinary nature. If you want to have a good command over this subject or environmental science, you should have at least basic knowledge of many subjects which are involved in it. I have tried to clear this concept with the help of this diagram. You can see that in environmental science we require basic knowledge of basic and applied sciences. which includes physical science such as physics, chemistry, earth science, atmospheric science. Specifically, if I am working on air pollution control, I should have good knowledge of atmospheric science. This subject is also related to technology such as civil, chemical, hydraulics and nanotechnology. This subject also has a connection with management subjects such as management, mass communication. It has a strong connection with the law, because if I want to enforce any particular environmental law, I should have good knowledge of law. Apart from this, knowledge of economics, sociology, education is also required for understanding and implementing all the methods and procedures of environmental science. Then if I want to develop a software which can be used for solving environmental problems, or say for gathering data related to certain particular pollutant in the atmosphere, then I should be good in modeling. Means I should have good knowledge of mathematics, statistics and computer science. Then only I would be able to design that particular software, or say develop that particular model. It also has a connection with the biology, life science, biochemistry and microbiology, because in environment we deal with number of microorganisms which are used or utilized for purification of wastewater and many other important works. So that reflects the multidisciplinary nature of environmental science. Means this subject is not a core subject, it's a mixture of many subjects. So that reflects its multidisciplinary nature. Now, if we talk about the objectives of environmental science, it can be summarized as to acquire an awareness of the environment as a whole and its related problems. So the first objective of environmental science is to create an awareness among the people about the environment, its importance, and to make people aware about their duties and responsibilities towards protection and conservation of environment. Another objective of environmental science is to gain a variety of experiences and acquire a basic understanding and knowledge about the environment and its allied problems. Once you are aware about the environment, its problems and your duties and responsibilities, the next objective is to gain some knowledge, because without knowledge you cannot give your contribution. If you have good knowledge about the subject, then only you can contribute to some extent for sorting out, solving out the environmental problems. The second objective is to acquire basic understanding and knowledge about the environment. Now, knowledge is a basic knowledge which gives you a surface command over a vast area. But if you really want to solve any problem that is related to environment, you should develop some skills. Suppose I am good in purification of wastewater, means my skills are wastewater purification. On the other hand, if someone is good in purifying the gases in the atmosphere, means his or her skills are air pollution. So likewise, based on your interest, you should acquire the skills for identifying and solving environmental problems. Means a deep knowledge related to any specific field. The fourth objective of environmental science is to acquire an attitude of concern for the environment. You should have a positive attitude towards your moral responsibilities and duties if you really want to protect environment and give your contribution in conservation of the environment. Because without that attitude, your knowledge, skill, awareness will not work. So this is one of the most important objectives of environmental science, that is to develop a positive attitude and to understand about your moral responsibilities and duties towards environment, towards society, etc. The next objective of environmental science is to participate in improvement and protection of environment. Environmental problems are such a big problems that it cannot be sorted out or it cannot be solved by any individual alone. You are bound to work in groups, you are bound to work in a participated form. So the another objective is to participate in improvement and protection of environment. You should be able to work in groups to handle such big problems which are related to environment. And the last objective of environmental science is to develop the ability to evaluate measures for the improvement and protection of environment. So all these are the objectives of environmental science. If you are studying environmental science subject, then you should always keep in your mind that you have to acquire all these objectives as the time passes. First of all, you have to make yourself aware about the environment, then get some basic understanding and knowledge about the environment, then develop some skills related to any specific problem, then have an attitude, the desire to work for the society, to work for the environment selflessly. Then you should have ability to participate in a group, and finally ability to evaluate measures for the improvement and protection of environment. So these are the objectives of environmental science. Now coming to the scope of environmental science. Environmental science has a very vast scope, such as conservation and management of natural resources like forest, water, air, mineral resource, etc. It also has a scope of conservation of biodiversity. Then with the help of environmental science we can carry out ecological studies. So it has an scope in ecological studies also. If we have a basic knowledge of environmental science and some good skills, we can control the environmental pollutions also. Various kinds of pollutions can also be controlled with the help of knowledge of environmental science. So it has a scope in control of environmental pollutions. Then another scope includes replacement of development like green revolution, urbanization, economic growth, industrialization, etc. with sustainable development. We know that development is a basic need of each and every nation nowadays, but development should not be at the cost of the loss of environment, because if there will not be a healthy environment, there will be no one to live and no one to use those facilities which you have developed by destroying or damaging your environment. So the scope is to look for the replacement of developmental activities with sustainable development. And another scope could be control of human population, which is one of the major problems causing damage to our environment. Apart from these points also, we have various other scopes of environmental science, but these are the major areas where environmental science can be used or utilized. Now talking about the importance of environmental science. Environmental science can help us to understand the current environmental problems. It can also provide skills to obtain solutions for the environmental problems. We just before discussed about it. This subject can help us to maintain ecological balance through basic operating knowledge of environmental systems. Because if you know the basic operating knowledge of various environmental systems, you can very easily find the solutions to maintain the ecological balance in those environmental systems. It can also help us to achieve sustainable development. We can explore various methods or ways which are environmentally sustainable and good for the mankind. So all those developmental methods can be identified and adopted as well as implemented. It can also apply the economic methods, concepts of environmental policy analysis and environmental management. This subject can help us in protection of biodiversity. All these things we will discuss in detail later once our unit 2 will start. Environmental science can also help us to educate people regarding their duties towards the environmental protection. So all these things are all these points shows the importance of environmental science in our life. Now that was very general idea about environmental science, its importance, scope, etc. And now we'll talk about a concept which is known as ecosystem. The term ecosystem was given by an ecologist whose name was A.G. Tansley in 1953, and he defined ecosystem as a natural unit consisting of all plants, animals and microorganisms in any particular area functioning together with the help of non-living physical factors of the environment. So if you look around yourself, if you find any area where you see variety of green plants are growing along with some animals, insects, etc. in any open area, that particular area can be defined as an ecosystem. It is a system, ecological system, or a natural system or a natural place which consists of plants, animals and microorganisms. All these three components are called as biotic factors, means living factors of environment in any particular area, and all these living factors are continuously interacting with the non-living factors or abiotic factors of environment. Now the abiotic factors are, for example, soil. We know that plants regularly interact with soil by absorbing nutrients from the soil. The plants also interact with air, which is again an abiotic factor, by absorbing carbon dioxide and releasing oxygen to the atmosphere. So there is a continuous interaction between biotic, means living, and abiotic, means non-living components of environment. So any area where we find both of these components interacting with each other can be termed or called as ecosystem. An ecosystem is a self-regulating group. Nature has its own method or way of regulating or controlling its ecosystems. If you look at any forest area, you will see that nature will control all the population by himself or herself. There will be no external force that will be controlling about the population or the number of plants, the variety of plants, the number of animals, the variety of animals. It will be controlled by nature itself. So we call this particular property of nature as a self-regulating property, means it will regulate its components by itself. So ecosystem is a self-regulating group of biotic communities of species interacting with one another and also with their non-living components. When we see that the components of the ecosystem are interacting, this means they are exchanging energy and matter. So this interaction is in the form of exchange of energy and matter to each other. Now the study of these ecosystems are termed as ecology, and this term was given by Ernst Haeckel in 1869. The term ecology is derived from two Greek words, oikos and logos. Oikos means home and logos means study, means study of the natural homes of all plants and animals can be termed as ecology. So it deals with the study of organism in their natural home interacting with their environment. The ecology is also defined as study of structure and function of any particular ecosystem. Now there are two terms in ecosystem, one is structure and another is function. When I talk about the structure of ecosystem, then I am focusing on the components of ecosystem. What could be the component of any particular ecosystem? We'll see this through one example. Suppose there is a forest which can be termed as a forest ecosystem, and I want to know about the structure of that particular ecosystem, means I am more interested in knowing that what are all those things or components which are present in that particular forest. Those could be plants, because forest comprises of plants. It could be animals, because there are number of animals also residing in the forest. There could be small microorganisms which we can find in the soil. So microorganisms or bacteria are also a component of forest ecosystem. Then it has soil on which the plants are rooted. So soil is another component of any forest ecosystem. There is air which is present in the forest area, and it is also interacting with the plants and animals. So air is another component of ecosystem. So component means what is all about that is present in any particular ecosystem, and it forms the structure of that ecosystem. Structure means what are the components of that particular ecosystem. Now we have discussed that all these components or all these parts of ecosystem, they interact with each other, and they interact in the form of energy and matter. Plants are absorbing nutrients from the soil, means plants are absorbing matter from the soil. Plants are releasing part of the nutrients back to the soil in the form of dropped leaves or dried leaves or fallen leaves. This means again plants are interacting with the soil of forest. Plants are absorbing carbon dioxide from the air, means there is an interaction of carbon dioxide or gas between atmosphere and plants. Plants are releasing oxygen to the air by the process of photosynthesis. Again there is some interaction or exchange of gases in the form of energy. So how much energy is being produced by any particular ecosystem, how much energy is being transferred to the another components of ecosystem, the study of all these things is considered as function of any ecosystem. So whenever we study about any particular ecosystem, we study it in two aspects. First, what is the structure of ecosystem, what are the different varieties of plants are there in that particular ecosystem, what are different varieties of animals which is present in that particular ecosystem, what kind of soil is there, what is the amount of all nutrients and minerals in the soil, what are the different kinds of gases which are being absorbed and released by the plants and animals. All these things will reflect the function of ecosystem. Function of ecosystem means how energy flows in a ecosystem in the form of organic matter or in the form of gases, nutrients, minerals, etc. So whenever we study an ecosystem, we study it in two aspects. First, the structure, what is the composition of the ecosystem. Another is the function, means how much energy is being produced by the plants and what portion of that particular energy is taken by all the animals. So how energy flows from one plant to another plant, one plant to another animal, one animal to another animal. All these things are studied under the functional aspect of any ecosystem. So that was all about the ecosystem, which we can define as a natural unit consisting of biotic factors interacting with the abiotic or non-living factors of environment. Now there are number of ecosystems in the environment, and some of them could be natural ecosystems such as forest, grasslands, deserts and aquatic ecosystems, for example ponds, rivers, lakes and the sea, which are produced by the nature and are regulated by the nature. So all such kinds of ecosystems are called as natural ecosystem. The examples of natural ecosystem can be seen through this slide. The images which I have posted on this slide. Forest ecosystem is a natural ecosystem. It is produced by nature and it is controlled by nature. Then grassland ecosystem, where the major vegetation is grass and it is also produced by nature and also regulated by nature. Then lake ecosystem, natural lakes, we have a number of natural lakes in India also, so it forms a lake ecosystem. So such type of ecosystems are known as natural ecosystems. Now there are man-made ecosystems also, which we call human modified ecosystems. For example, agricultural fields. If you imagine about an agricultural field, then what you will notice in that particular field, you will notice some crops are growing over the agricultural land and some insects or animals are also present. Although that particular variety of the crop may be natural, but still it will not be called a natural ecosystem. Why? Because it is the farmer or it is the person or the landowner who will decide that which particular variety of crop will be grown in his field. It is the farmer or the owner of the agricultural land who will decide that when the crop has to be irrigated, what kind of fertilizer has to be given to this particular crop, and when it will be harvested. So such ecosystems are controlled by humans and they are called man-made, artificial or human modified ecosystems. Another example of human modified ecosystem could be aquarium, in which the person who owns that aquarium will decide that what particular variety of fishes will be kept in the aquarium, how many numbers of fishes will be kept in the aquarium, what kind of feed will be provided to those fishes, how much oxygen will be given to the water, when the water will be replaced, the frequency of replacement of the water. All these things will be decided by the owner of that particular aquarium. So it is called human modified or human controlled or artificial ecosystems. So in general we can classify ecosystems as natural ecosystems and man-made ecosystems or artificial ecosystems or even human modified ecosystems. So this slide shows the images of natural ecosystems. In next slide we will see the man-made ecosystems. You can see clearly I have posted images of aquarium, which is a man-made ecosystem. Then agricultural crop field is a man-made ecosystem. Even the bacterial cultures in the laboratory cultures are also considered as man-made ecosystems. And hydroponic system, which is called as soilless farming system, farming practices, the hydroponic systems are also considered as man-made ecosystems. So this is how we can differentiate between various ecosystems. Now talking about the classification of ecosystems, we can classify the ecosystems into various categories based on certain parameters. I have taken 3 parameters which I will discuss through this slide. The number 1 is the classification based on nature. So based on nature we can classify ecosystems as natural ecosystems and man-made ecosystems. Under natural ecosystems again we can have 2 categories. The first category is terrestrial ecosystems, the ecosystems which are present on soil or any hard surface, soil, rocks, etc. or sand. So those ecosystems are called as terrestrial ecosystems. Examples could be forest, deserts, grasslands. Another natural ecosystem category could be aquatic ecosystem, where the base is water. Ecosystem exists on water. Aquatic ecosystems can further be subdivided as freshwater ecosystems such as lakes, ponds and rivers, and marine ecosystems such as ocean, sea, estuaries, etc. So based on nature, another category could be man-made ecosystems. The examples I just discussed in the previous slide: aquarium, crop fields, flower beds. So that is based on their nature, either natural or man-made. Another parameter based on which we can classify the ecosystem is based on the duration of ecosystem, means based on the life of that particular ecosystem. So based on the duration of ecosystem, we can classify it as temporary ecosystem and permanent ecosystem. The temporary ecosystem will last for a very small phase, means these ecosystems will remain on this earth for a very limited period, then they will get destroyed. The examples could be rain fed ponds, the ponds which are filled with water when rainfall occurs, and at that time these such ponds will get vegetation, insects, animals, etc., fishes, even fishes, etc. So but the duration of such ecosystems are only 3 to 4 months. Then laboratory culture of the microbes, again such type of ecosystem will exist till your experiment is going on. Once the experiment is over, you will destroy that particular laboratory culture of the microbes. So we categorize such ecosystem as temporary ecosystems. Another ecosystems could be permanent, which are existing since many years and are still present. Examples could be forests, lakes, etc. The third category or parameter based on which we can classify the ecosystem is the classification based on the size of ecosystem. Now if the size of ecosystem is small, we will keep it in a category that is small or micro ecosystems. The examples for such kind of ecosystems could be flower pots, logs and bushes. And on the another hand, if the size of ecosystem is large, such type of ecosystems are termed as large ecosystems or macro ecosystems. The examples are well known to us. It could be ocean, deserts, forest, etc. So this is how we can classify the ecosystems. So that was all about today's lecture. I hope most of you have understood it nicely, but still if there is any query, we'll have a live session once in a week where you can ask your all the queries related to your topics. So that was all about today's lecture. We'll meet in the second lecture again. So thank you so much.